You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. Insufferable, semi-royal twits. I've mentioned, in an immediate part passim, that Harry's wife is experiencing a variety of fronts opening up against her, arising out of the South Park episode. There's the episode itself. There is the mainstream media response to it in reporting it. There's the mainstream media response where many of those publications are taking gleeful delight in poking fun at her as a consequence of the South Park episode. There is the mass response through social media. Thereafter, of course, there is her pity play of letting the world know that she's extremely upset and overwhelmed. There's, of course, the response of threatening legal action. And people's responses to those reactions are not one of sympathy, bar the dunder-headed, cloth-eared shuggers, but rather it's the response of the majority of people to just shake their heads and laugh further and revel in her discomfort. And this revelling in the discomfort is demonstrated by PJ Media with an article by Stephen Green, headlined, "Insufferable Twits, Harry and Harry's wife might sue to stop you from seeing this South Park. More evidence of the Barbra Streisand effect, and another panning from another media outlet. Insufferable, semi-royal twits, Harry and Harry's wife, whatever their pseudo-last name is, might be considering legal action against South Park for a hurtful parody. Creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker just aired about the Prince and Princess of Canada. Names and titles were changed to protect the insufferable. Thank the founders, we live in a constitutional republic, and yet somehow we're still subjected to these royal twits. South Park, now in its 26th rib-splitting season, last week aired a new episode called The Worldwide Privacy Tour. According to the Mirror, Harry and Harry's wife could call in the lawyers to try and take the brutal episode off the air, nullification of threat to control through legal means. The show featured a young royal couple who are begging for privacy while drawing attention to themselves time and time again in a hilarious spoof-like way, according to Neil Sean at Fox News. I haven't watched the new episode yet, a failure I plan to remedy just as soon as I finish this column, the writer states, but I did come across this excerpt that you won't want to miss, and then there's an excerpt provided in the body of the article. The show remains as funny as ever, unlike some other long-running animated programs I could mention, The Simpsons, and its celebrity-slicing saber wit has never dulled. Nevertheless, over the last decade or so, I've been an intermittent South Park viewer. When an episode makes the news, like this one just did, I'll remember to tune in. This, of course, demonstrating the Streisand effect, that an intermittent viewer is brought back to it as a consequence of the episode making the news. Otherwise, work and family usually keep me too busy to watch something that isn't also for the wife and kids. This is where the Streisand effect kicks in, or is that Mecha Streisand? South Park memorably lampooned egomaniacal celebrities whilst paying homage to Japanese monster movies in the Season 1 classic. Little did Parker and Stone know in 1998 that Barbra Streisand would end up parodying herself just 5 years later. In 2003, Streisand sued a photographer for $50 million for taking an aerial beach photo for the California Coastal Records project that included her Malibu home. Not only did she lose the suit, and not only was she ordered to pay the photographer's legal fees, but her tantrum caused millions of people to find and share a photograph that otherwise would have gone unnoticed in some CCRP archive. Nobody previously really gave a damn where Streisand's house was or what it looked like. But by drawing attention to it, and herself in the worst possible way, Streisand inadvertently created what was soon called the Streisand effect. That's when a celebrity tries to suppress something, but by their celebrity status, ends up calling more attention to it. God bless you, Babs. It's been 20 years, and that self-own still makes me chuckle. For all its longevity, South Park doesn't have a huge audience. It's a niche adult cartoon for, well, niche adults like me. But if Harry and Harry's wife, that insufferable duo, go ahead with their doomed lawsuit, it's certain that the Streisand effect will kick in, and millions of people who would never dream of watching South Park will tune in for the Prince and Princess of Canada. It sounds to me like an instant classic, so if you'll excuse me, I'm going to watch the whole thing for myself. This journalist not only seeing them as insufferable twits, and of course there's further adverse coverage of Harry and Harry's wife as a consequence of their response to the South Park episode, this journalist also notes the potential for the Streisand effect to take place. Harry's wife will never learn. Some of you might think, given the repeated nature of the fuck-ups that she causes, and the fact that her level of unpopularity just keeps on increasing, that surely she will start to notice. However, what you must understand is that the hermetically sealed nature of her narcissism as a self-defense mechanism against threats to control means that it just will not let her see that it's her fault. It can't let that happen. Because if it does, it's game over. She will in effect cease to exist. She would crumble and be left as the true self, the creature escaping, and being left as almost a child without any coping mechanism. Remember, her narcissism is a form of coping mechanism to allow her to navigate her way through the world. Her world is dominated by the need for control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. Your world is dominated by other considerations besides those. But for her as a narcissist, that is what dominates her world, and those are her lodestones, which she must follow. She does so subconsciously, and her narcissism navigates her way through the world, attending to those prime aims, and does so successfully. Yes, of course, as I mentioned many times, it creates collateral consequences, but they are not of concern, because her narcissism operates in the moment. And when it gets those collateral consequences, it then just blames them on somebody else and kicks the can down the road. It never, ever lets her see that she's the problem. And so with the South Park episode, it will not let her see that she's brought this on herself. She will not think, actually, it's right that they take the piss out of me and Harry because, yeah, we've kind of behaved this way. The reason that she contemplates legal action is that she doesn't see at all that there's any ounce of truth in this parody. Any legal action will fail because, quite simply, not only is it a parody, but much of what they mention, if not everything, is true. And therefore, it can't be defamatory if it's true. They bleat about privacy, but then ensure that they're repeatedly seen in the public eye, the main thrust of the episode. And therefore, in the circumstances, any attempt to suggest that this is defamatory must be doomed to fail. But remember, from her perspective, she can't see that. She thinks this program is a package of lies. We don't do that. Oh, yes, you do, but she can't see it. We don't claim that we want privacy and then put ourselves in everybody's faces. What are you talking about? I'm not publicity hungry. I'm just doing good works, and it's important that the world knows about them. That's fair, isn't it? So what you all have to remember is that if for a moment you can put yourself behind Harry's wife's eyes, unpleasant thought that might be, when you look at the world through her eyes, she automatically thinks, I've not done anything wrong. These are horrible people that have issued lies about me, so that's why I'm going to look at legal action. Of course, the lawyer is likely to say to her, it's a no-go, and she may well think, what an incompetent, useless lawyer, and go and find another one. That's why you see many narcissists that change lawyers, because they cannot accept being told the truth that their claim is a rubbish one and won't succeed. In their world, they are utterly convinced, because of their altered perspective, of the truth, their own truth. Remember how many times Harry's wife says that. And so if you find yourself struggling to understand why she would embark upon such a stupid move as issuing legal action, or at least threatening to do so, remember, from her perspective, because she does not see the world in the same way as you, from her perspective, it is a pack of lies. And that justifies the action that she takes. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.